Let me ask you something that might sting just a little. How many different places did you look today just to find one thing for work? Like you're not even trying to be disorganized. You're trying to do your job, but you open your inbox and you search. Then Teams, scroll. Then OneDrive, maybe. Then you remember someone said it was in SharePoint, which is basically like saying it's somewhere in the library. It's somewhere, right? And eventually you do find it. After searching and using Copilot, you found it. But you're not even happy. You're just relieved because the real problem isn't the time you spent searching for it. The real problem is that searching messes with your confidence. When you don't know where the truth lives, you start doing weird stuff, like survival type stuff, right? You download your own copy just in case. You forward an email to yourself like it's evidence. You save 3 versions because you don't trust any of them. And then you ask a coworker instead of the system, right? And suddenly Microsoft 365 isn't helping your work. It's just hosting your confusion. That's not a feature problem, right? That's a workflow problem. So, hi everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Feature. This is the podcast where we stop hunting for features and we start upgrading our workflows. I'm Dr. Patrick Jones, and we are still using the video format as you see, as well as audio. So find the format you prefer. The video podcasts have been very popular last week, so we'll keep it. But I know I like to listen to podcasts while working out, so that stays too. So last week, we talked about meetings that produce work, and I shared the 24-hour rule, which is decision, owner, next step, home. Well, today we're going to zoom in on probably the most ignored part of that, which is home. Because if your work doesn't have a home, it doesn't have a workflow, it's just a scavenger hunt. So today's episode is about one simple rule that can save you hours a month and lower your stress immediately. I call it the single source of truth rule. And it's basically this: if it matters, it deserves a home. And once it has a home, we stop copying it everywhere else. We're going to keep this episode super practical. And by the end, I'll give you one thing to try this week that you can try to do. It's under 20 minutes. Keep it simple for you, right? So let's start by taking a look at searching. Searching is a sneaky tax because it happens in small bites. 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, a quick let me find that. But here's the thing. Searching doesn't just steal time, it steals your momentum. You know that feeling when you're locked in, getting things done, and then you have to stop and hunt for a file. It's like taking a warm engine and turning it off every 10 minutes. And in nonprofits and small businesses, it's even worse because people wear multiple hats, processes live in people's heads, and the way we do things isn't always written down, and half the business runs through email. So you end up with a file in an attachment, a newer file in a Teams chat, a spreadsheet in someone's OneDrive, and a decision made verbally that nobody documented. And then everybody wonders why work feels heavy. So the goal today isn't use SharePoint more. That's forcing a feature, right? The goal is reduce searching by creating a known home for important work. Wherever that home is, it might be SharePoint, maybe a Loop workspace or a Copilot notebook. But creating a home is personal or cultural, and it's beyond the feature. So, okay, here's the single source of truth rule in regular language for us. So we're going to do step 1, identify the thing that matters. So an example is the proposal you send to clients, weekly schedule, onboarding checklist, budget spreadsheet, marketing calendar, meetings, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if it matters, it deserves a home. So choose one home for that thing. This is where people overcomplicate it. You don't need a perfect system. You need a consistent one. Here's a simple guide. Documents and files could live in SharePoint or OneDrive. Project conversations could live in Teams. Tasks live in To-Do or Planner. Tracking lives in lists. And knowledge and how-to notes, those live in OneNote or Loop. So those are examples, but find what works, right? Personal and cultural. Then step three is share links, not copies. This is the single habit that changes everything. Attachments create forks in reality, right? One-off copies. They take their own life. Links protect truth. If your team shares links instead of attachments, version chaos shrinks fast. And then make the home obvious. If the home is hidden, it's not a home, it's a storage unit. Make it obvious by pinning it in Teams, adding it as a tab, putting it in the meeting invite, creating a start here post in the channel. Now the team doesn't need a treasure map to locate it. Let me give you a story you've probably lived. A small business is sending a proposal to a client. One person starts it, another person adds pricing, someone adds terms, someone makes edits, and now the proposal exists in 4 places. A Word document attached to an email, a Word document uploaded to a Teams chat, a version on someone's desktop, and the one someone renamed final, right? So the deadline hits, and here's what happens. Nobody's confident. People start hesitating like they're defusing a bomb. Wait, which one do I send? Is that pricing updated? Did we include the new scope? Who changed the dates? And this is where you lose not just time, but professionalism, because the client doesn't care how your files are stored. They care that you are, or at least look, organized. Now, we don't fix this with more training. People try. We fix it with one workflow change. One file, one link, one home. Where does it live? In a SharePoint folder connected to a team. Where do people access it? From the Teams channel tab or pinned link. How do you collaborate? Comments, track changes inside the document. And then how do you send it to the client? Export to a PDF, send the PDF, but the working version stays in the home. Now the proposal isn't flying around the business like a paper airplane. It lives somewhere, and everyone knows where that somewhere is. That's the single source of truth rule. So let me give you an easy setup that works for most small businesses and nonprofits I work with, even some government folks. So I call it the 3 homes model, right? You don't need 10 systems, you need 3. So home number 1 is the project home, Teams. If something is active work, it needs a place where people can talk about it without hunting for it. A Teams channel is perfect. Home number 2, the file home. So the SharePoint may be behind the Teams or the files inside the Teams channel. Every team has a file storage location behind it, right? And that's in SharePoint. That becomes the filing cabinet. The trick is not that SharePoint exists. The trick is that you actually use it correctly, right? And then home number 3 is the tracker home. This is lists or planner. If the work is multi-step, onboarding, client tasks, recurring requests, you need a tracker people can see. Planner is great for task flow, and lists is great for structured tracking, like the status, the owner, the due date, notes. Now, when someone asks, where are we on that? You don't answer with a story, you answer with a link. That's workflow maturity. Now let's connect this to the innovation quadrant from our show a couple weeks ago. If you didn't listen to it, go back and check it out. It was really a pretty good episode. Innovation isn't new software out there. It's not, what's the new shiny feature. Innovation is when you stop paying the same tax every week. If your team is repeatedly searching for the latest pricing, onboarding steps, correct client template, current process, that's a repeating pain. Innovation is saying, let's solve this once. So the single source of truth rule is an innovation move. It's like cleaning your kitchen. Cooking doesn't change, but everything gets easier. Now let's loop in Copilot, but the right way. So Copilot is not the starting point. Copilot is the multiplier. Once you have a single source of truth, Copilot can help you. It can summarize what changed in that document, draft a cleaner version, generate a status update from your files and notes, even turn that messy document into a simple checklist. But if your work is scattered everywhere, Copilot is like trying to vacuum a room while the floor is being built. So do the home first, then bring in Copilot. So, all right, let's do that takeaway I was talking about earlier. The three quick things, right? So the question is, if someone asked me where the latest version is, could I answer in one sentence? Pretty simple, right? If the answer is it depends, your workflow needs a home. Now, here's a workflow to try. Probably take you under 20 minutes. So pick one project you're working on and do this. Create a Teams channel or use an existing one that you're already in, right? And put the key file in that channel's files. Then pin that file link in the channel, right? Tab at the top, something like that. And then tell the team, links only, no attachments. That's it. It's a small change, but it's a big impact. Now, because of metacognition, which is learning about learning, we love reflections. So here's a reflection prompt. At the end of the week, ask yourself, did we search less? And then rate it 1 through 5. That reflection is how habit sticks. And that's also kind of the thinking behind the workflow app I'm building, which is ironically named Beyond the Feature. So it's one daily concept. You try it, you reflect on it, and you rate it. And the idea is improvement is a practice, not an event. So the app is going to be Android first, should be out real soon, then Apple real soon. So today's Beyond the Feature upgrade was the single source of truth rule. If it matters, it deserves a home. And once it has a home, we stop copying it everywhere else. Now, next week, we're going to build on this with a simple habit that cleans up everyday communication. So we're going to talk about stop using chat like a filing cabinet, because building message to work habits is important, right? Because Teams chat is until go ahead if you do it, share it with all the good stuff. And besides that, I'll see you next time on Beyond the Feature.